we're going to continue on more CBD discussions. Get excited. One of my favorite entrepreneurs, Michael Bumgarner, he is actually the CEO and founder of Kanuka. If you don't know what Kanuka is, it's two of the best things ever. It's CBD and Manuka honey. And they've been known recently because they got into Ulta stores. So they're in 1,200, I think, Ulta stores. And I would love to ask him some questions before he gets started with his panel. So if he's around to chat with me, Mr. Michael, can you come to the stage, sir? Or you can come to the stage too, or anyone can talk to me. Do you guys want to talk to me? Anyone have any questions? No? What about answers? Because I need a lot of those. Should I give this back to you? Yeah. We're winging it. This is what happens. Can I give you this mic too? Okay, hot seat, sir.
Hello, hello.
So you've been hosting a lot of panels. Are you trying to take my job?
The pressure is on, Nicole.
I don't know how I feel about it. What is your biggest advice for the audience to actually make a difference right now? I know we're all talking about the future. Obviously, we want to know how you got into Ulta stores more. Who doesn't want to be there? But what's like right now today the best thing they can do?
Knowing who you're talking to and like what's the objective. So someone really smart once told me like, what's the easiest thing to sell? The easiest thing to sell is what the customer wants. And ultimately, whether you're an influencer, buyer, brand, when you're having a meeting, understand really what they want to hear. And I can give an example. Specifically for Ulta, we knew they wanted to understand that we had our infrastructure.
Together?
Thank you.
That's what he wanted to say.
Had our infrastructure in place. We were doing things by the books. So prior to that meeting, that is all we focused on, is making sure we're working with the right third-party vendors, making sure our cannabis, hemp-derived CBD is, has 0% THC because we do use an isolate. So it's really just understanding the person in front of you. What do they need to hear to say yes, and then preparing to do that.
Is the QA process way more of a pain in the ass because of the CBD?
Can you repeat that? What's that?
The quality assurance process, is that way more of a pain in the ass with CBD stuff?
I can't answer compared to other industries or anything else like that. What I can say, there are processes, there are third-party laboratories that you just go and just do things by the books. Ultimately, if you want to be on a national scale, they're going to ask you to do this, whether you have CBD in your product or you're just a clean, natural beauty brand.
I remember when I had a product on HSN, actually, and their QA process was so intense. But then when I got through that, I could get to any other retailer because they were like the gold standard of checking every little thing. Okay, so back to the here and now. Thank you for indulging me with that tangent. What have you seen as like a faux pas? What are some good questions? What are some bad questions? What can we do?
Let me clarify, as a brand to a buyer,
Well, you're a brand to a buyer, so you were in those shoes before. What are the best questions that you've seen resonate?
I think it goes back to the very first question. What does the person in front of you need to hear to answer yes?
So just literally say, like, what do you need? One of my favorite questions is actually, how can I be helpful? I say this all the time in business. I always try to come from a place of service. And so I think when you start a conversation trying to get something from the other person, it's a big turnoff. I mean, I think anyone at any level has something to offer, whether it's contacts to like a DJ for their kid's bar mitzvah or whatever. Anything you can do to create a real relationship, I think pays dividends later on.
And to add to that, we're all busy. The person, that is the buyer of whatever retailer is extremely busy. So how do we make that decision even easier and faster? So it's really, at the end of the day, make it easy.
Do you want to know how you can be helpful to me right now?
Yes.
You can take the hot seat and bring your panel on.
Perfect.
You're the best.
I'm going to grab this. Okay, everybody, this is the Future of CBD. I'm not sure if you guys have walked out in the brands, but there's a lot of CBD brands right now. It's a hot topic. We're all interested. We have some experts up here that know exactly what they're doing. So real quick, the flow of this panel, I'm going to try to give a quick overview. I'm first going to just ask everyone to introduce themselves, give them their brand story, really understand who these people are. Then it goes into like the transparency issue. Why is transparency important? Then the future of CBD. But ultimately, this is founder-made. There's a lot of founders out there. We want to make this as beneficial to you as possible. So I really ultimately want to get to some Q&As so you can ask those important questions to set you guys up for success with your brands. So Dr. Kerklaan, which I call him Dr. K, take it over.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you, FounderMade. It's a great show, fantastic turnout, and we're definitely happy to be sharing our information, experience, our stories. So I come from 20 years in practice, where I had patients back in 2013, 14 asking questions about cannabinoids, about CBD. And so I went off and did research. Like most health professionals, I didn't have any answers for anybody, but I was intrigued. And when you start to really look at the information out there, the historical use, it became very apparent there was tremendous opportunity to help people with CBD and other cannabinoids. But the next challenge was I didn't see brands or products at the time I could really recommend to patients. So I took it upon myself to develop a brand, develop products with formulation expertise, and launched in this crazy CBD space back in kind of a beta launch in 2017. And then the Farm Bill came along, and this happens. And so it's a super exciting space, but I really love the opportunity to help people beyond the clinic, beyond the walls of my practice. So happy to share my experience today.
Next up, we have Christopher Gavigan.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us, Michael. Hey, so I am, at my core, a passionate consumer advocate. I've spent my entire career around environmental health and how to protect people from toxicants and specific threats in our world. And one of the biggest threats that we're all experiencing right now is this epidemic of stress. It's the largest social toxin of our time. So prior to launching Prima, I was an executive director and CEO of a nonprofit called Healthy Child, Healthy World, which is really about extracting data out of medicine research and academic institutions to really understand what influences health. What are the triggers? What are the choices that we can make? And so spent my close to a decade there and rolled into creating a solution-based product solution called The Honest Company. Now, The Honest Company was here to really care for families, parents, and really create a safe, healthy, non-toxic home. But ultimately, how we manage our health, what we put in, on, and around our bodies matter. So I sit on the board of Mount Sinai, and since 2009, I've been tracking cannabinoid science. It's been fascinating to see the therapeutic possibility and potential. But what I'm not seeing, and really was a call to action for me to launching Prima with 2 other female co-founders, was this idea that trust, credibility, safety, purity needed to be top of mind. And so it was a call to action. I decided to put my intentions and my expertise there because there needed to be one holistic master brand that really was on the forefront of the science, but on the forefront of the clean and safety. So Prima is a science-driven, purpose-led, functional plant botanical brand, and I'll talk about more today, but super excited to be here.
Chase Terwilliger, CEO of Boda.
Thanks, Michael. Chase Terwilliger, CEO of CB Distillery and Boda Hemp, all under a parent company called Balanced Health Botanicals. We started CB Distillery in 2016 with a simple mission. That was to get CBD to the masses, get affordable, high-quality CBD. We did a phenomenal job of presenting our COAs, or Certificate of Analysis, to have transparency. And so we set the industry, set a gold standard for the industry with providing exactly what was in each product. CB Distillery has taken off in a big way. It's mostly functional products, so your ingestibles, tinctures, high-strength topicals, as well as soft gels. We are rolling out Boda here at FounderMade. It's our new cosmetic brand. It's plant-powered skincare, and then plus CBD. What you'll see coming out from us in the future is plant-powered skincare plus CBN, CBG, and other minor cannabinoids that everybody up here I know is anxious to talk about. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. Kimberly Dillon, next up.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kimberly, and I got into the industry about 4 years ago, and I got in cannabis, which is a little bit different than CBD. I love the entire plant. And so I was most recently the CMO of Papa & Barkley, which is exhibiting today and is one of the best companies for pain management. And I spent 3 years working on that brand. We started in the kitchen, in a crock pot, and now we are doing something like 25 million in revenue. I left the organization in June to start my own company, which is called Frig Wellness. And I saw an opportunity to really focus on CBD coming from a cannabis perspective and really advocating for the whole plant. I do believe there is a trade-up strategy at some point in the future. And I'm specifically interested in the effects of cannabis as it relates to burnout and stress on the body. And I do think that burnout and stress leads to aging, and there's a connection to beauty and anti-aging and CBD. So that's the mission that I'm currently on.
Amazing. And last but certainly not least, Jay Hartenbach.
Hey everyone, thanks Michael. So Jay Hartenbach, CEO and co-founder of Medterra. Medterra is a CBD company that is focused on both pure CBD products, but also products that incorporate CBD and the power of CBD with other functional ingredients. We sell a variety of products, including tinctures and topical products. In 2017, we had the opportunity to start Medterra in my living room with nothing more than just the ambition of being able to provide consumers more easily accessible CBD. And so we started online and really kind of took that vision to where we are now. We're in over 12,000 retail locations, and we're expanding internationally pretty aggressively. As a founder, I've gotten to see both all of the right things and certainly the wrong things in starting both a company and a CBD company. So just really excited to be here and hopefully share some of the experiences and be helpful to everyone in the crowd. Thanks, Michael.
Amazing. Let's jump into it. So obviously the panel is the future of CBD, but for all of the newbies out there, what is CBD? What does it do? Fortunately for us, we have Dr. K to my left that can answer this question very well. So please share your knowledge on really what is CBD, how does it affect the body, skin, and the ECS system.
So CBD is a cannabinoid, and it's found in the cannabis plant. CBD derived with use in terms of kind of general retail is derived primarily from hemp. And so you have this amazing molecule which is dominant within the plant that you can extract and create an oil or create a powder and use in product formulation. But it really has this amazing history, and I'll say it's about time that regulations change and society gets to access to CBD and other cannabinoids again, because you can look back 5,000 years and see history in Chinese medicine applications and whatnot. So it's only in modern times that things have been restricted. So it's fantastic to see regulations changing and society gaining access to cannabinoids. But CBD is really just one of well over 100 different cannabinoids. There are terpenes in the plant as well. And so when you combine a lot of these molecules together, you get this fantastic therapeutic potential from it. So CBD is the first one out of the gate. So there's a tremendous amount of excitement around it because really it has fantastic therapeutic potential. It literally works. It works amazingly well with your immune system, anti-inflammatory response, pain control. There's anti-aging effects primarily through anti-inflammatory responses. So there's a lot of hardcore science out there which is available, and we're going to see a huge torrent of clinical trials and all sorts of additional information, which I truly believe is going to support this historical use and a lot of the fantastic testimonials that we all see in relation to terrifically formulated products. So CBD is the first one out of the gate. I've heard CBG mentioned, CBN, THCV. There are many other cannabinoids that are going to have their time and their opportunity as well. But for now, CBD is the non-psychogenic molecule. It doesn't get you high. It is derived from the cannabis plant or from the hemp plant, and we're seeing it used in cosmetics through to therapeutic products through to anti-inflammatory and pain control and many different things.
Great. I'm going to be pretty pointed with these next questions just so we can get through several more because this is a very important topic. I recently read an article. There's been over 2,000 new CBD brands launched in the past year. How can you as a consumer differentiate? Where does transparency play a role? And I think that's where I want to set this up specifically for Christopher and Kimberly. Talk about transparency. What are your thoughts on it? Is it important? how does Prima specifically handle this very important question?
It's transparency. It's like the authenticity. They're buzzwords of the branding and marketing moment, but unless you're living it, unless you're showing it, unless you have rigor and uncompromising commitment to it, then you shouldn't start a brand. You shouldn't bring a product into your store shelves. You shouldn't buy the brand off of a store shelf or online, because they need to show you. And it's about SOPs, it's about batching protocols, it's about third-party commitments and standards. It's about doing what's right for the industry. So we all have a common purpose. We are here to help and uplift you, your bodies, our health, the health of this planet. And unless we're doing it with a level of connectivity to the soil and to the plants, we know where the source is, we know we've set standards with our manufacturing facilities on sanitization protocols. How do we extract the product in so you're not scorching all the plant actives at it? So how are you extracting and doing the distillation process of it? So you're really preserving the most active qualities of the plant. It also is about third-party certifications. Who are you aligned with? There's a group called Detox Project out there that is looking at one insecticide and pesticide called glyphosate, but they're looking at 360 other pesticides and insecticides. So are you growing your plants in an organic fashion or in organic fields? Because we know hemp is a bioaccumulator. It pulls up toxicants and incidentals from the soil. So heavy metals, if that's in your plant, that's a neurotoxin. So we have to do our job. The industry is at such an amazingly positive but urgent point in the time of the growth, because we should be, all of us should be welcoming the FDA into our doors. We should have both the batch records and the protocols and the standards, as well as the COAs, to show exactly parts per billion, what's in your product, how many times have you tested it. All these things, all this action and activity, batching, sourcing, regulatory quality systems, that all is so important right now. So again, if you're a retailer, if you're a new brand, if you're a consumer, ask questions. Because unfortunately, we have to self-regulate, and we don't have the regulatory excellence yet. FDA is coming, thank goodness. FTC is taking some actions against some ridiculous claims, thank you. But we need to do our job. It's a long game. And the long game is to preserve and protect the industry and the credibility and the trust of each other and our brands, because we're all in common purpose to really uplift and serve your health and wellness.
Can I add to that for a quick second?
Well, I'm going to do a two-part. Add to that, and then what do you think as brands, like what do you think you can do to help the consumer see the transparency and be more transparent?
You know, as building a brand, I think it's really all about trust and connecting to your consumer. And so I think one of the best examples of transparency, and actually before I answer that question, I actually think all of us should be testing our products, whether you have CBD or not. It is so incredibly important that consumers know what they're putting on their skin and in their bodies. And one quick test, cannabis is regulated in the state of California, and I remember a few months ago I sent a bottle of balm to get tested, and I thought it was the cannabis because we popped for pesticides. And it wasn't the cannabis, it was the lavender we bought from an actual store. And so the legal amounts of microbials in lavender do not meet the same standards as for cannabis, which made me wonder about all of our ingredients. Why are we just testing the one? We should test all of them.
Final formulation. The total formulation needs to be tested.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes, and I think that even if it's not CBD, testing your products is a way to build trust, because supplements and cosmetics are often hope in a jar. And so when you want to delineate between brands, building trust and authenticity is so important. And I think the brand that does a really great job of that is Meet Gaia. They have Meet Your Herb, if you're familiar with that website, and you can just track the herbs on its journey. You can know who worked on your products. You can know the results of those products. And so as building brands, there are small ways that you can show this that's not so incredibly expensive. One is testing results on your packaging with a QR code or a link to a website. Second is the certifications that Chris mentioned, to show that you've gone through all this rigorous steps. And three, include it in your education and educate your consumer on why your products are better. And so don't see it as like a compliance thing. See it as a way to tell your brand story and a way to build trust.
I love that. The panel is the future of CBD. Let's start with Chase. Where do you see this going? Not only on a transparency level, but just this category in general. And what are you doing specifically with your business to think 2, 3, 4, 5 years ahead?
Yeah, absolutely. So other than transparency, which we know is very important, I think the minor cannabinoids and the different functions. Form factors. So minor cannabinoids, as mentioned up here, looking at the possibilities of CBN, CBC, THCV, and then doing the clinical studies behind them to actually prove that that's effective. Then once we get there, we'll obviously have to find a supply chain behind it. So it's really difficult right now to find cannabis plants, hemp plants, that are high in those minor cannabinoids and make it efficient and affordable to actually extract. And then form factors. Right now, I think most of us, our top selling product, well, I guess I don't want to speak for all of us, but the oils, the tinctures. Those are great for right now, but as you know, as the demographic progresses upwards, they're not necessarily comfortable with taking a tincture, putting it under your tongue for 20 seconds. It gives them flashbacks to days that they've had in the past. And we've heard that from consumers. So really looking at different form factors and the bioavailability, and then doing the clinical studies behind the scenes to make sure that those dosages are effective and knowing the right dosages.
That's great. Jay, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the future of CBD as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's two ways to look at it. I think one, to Chase's point, and Dr. Kerklaan, is the actual academic research behind it. So I've had an opportunity to talk with a lot of different journalists, and I think this question that still keeps on popping up is the CBD hype real or not? And we're at this point 2.5 years in the industry, some 4 years in the industry, and that question is still popping up. And I think where that actually is creating an avenue is for the academic research to come in. So as a company, for example, we partnered with the Baylor College of Medicine to actually test our products. We got a fantastic study back where we took senior arthritic dogs that had failed to find any benefit from traditional prescription medications and actually saw significant relief from the CBD products and the CBD oil that we were giving them. And I think that's really important, because if we're talking about the future of CBD, people have to be convinced that it's not a fad and that there is some reality to it. And I think to continue that is one, kind of looking past CBD. So I know there's some talk on the minor cannabinoids. We like to look even beyond that into just other functional ingredients. One of the things that we often say at Medterra is people don't take CBD to take CBD. That might have been part of the earlier movement, but at this point, people are looking for the results. And so why not constrict ourselves to just the hemp plant? We've got a product, for example, that combines CBD with melatonin. And what we're finding is that people that take CBD exclusively and take melatonin exclusively aren't getting near the same results of the CBD plus melatonin combined. So I think for the future of CBD is opening our horizons and looking beyond CBD and just recognizing that CBD is just a small part in the overall health and wellness community, as Americans in general just lean more to healthcare or health and wellness as opposed to just true medical care.
Dr. Kerklaan, given your background and your understanding of the endocannabinoid system, what do you think is kind of next steps for CBD and the cannabis plant as a whole?
I think I'd like to see that society has easy access to cannabinoids and to CBD, and I wouldn't like to see it end up controlled as a controlled substance and requiring huge clinical trials and patents and all sorts of stuff. I do think there's a risk of that, and some of us are aware of patents that are out there. But I would like to see general access to it, because I see and I believe this huge potential exists in cannabinoids. So, then as reference, getting access to seeing genetics and crops that can provide CBG and CBN and all the others on mass size to be able to satisfy the demand that's out there. So, I'd like to see general access to it and application in many, many ways, because it has such a terrific potential. The endocannabinoid system is described as an overall regulator. So if you can impact this overall regulator with these cannabinoids, you have this potential to impact so many different things. And that's one of the questions I face, is how can CBD possibly affect everything from sleep through to the myriad of things that we read about and hear about. But if you understand that concept that your endocannabinoid system is an overall regulator and it has an impact on your immune system and it has an impact on your sleep and your digestive system and pain response and so many other things, neuro-inflammatory responses. So if you can have an impact at that regulatory level, you have this tremendous opportunity to help many, many things. So I would like to see, with that potential, that society has access to these compounds, in an easy, safe way.
Yeah, that's great. Question for everybody, and it's because it's such a touch point right now: sustainability. How can we get more, better at this? So, starting at the very end, I would love to hear your thoughts on what, as a brand, are you doing to become more sustainable? Is it a pillar in your company, and if it is, why?
Yeah, absolutely. I think any company in today's day and age that isn't focusing on sustainability is, one, just missing out as a corporate responsibility, but two, just from actually connecting with consumers. When we started, we were thinking in such small scale that we didn't really actually understand the impact of our products. At this point, we're running product runs that are in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions. And so when you start actually thinking about where those products end up, it actually does have a real impact. And so that's one of the things that we're doing as a company. All the packaging, we're transitioning to PCR packaging to rely on paper that's already been recycled or that it's coming from a sustainable source. Hemp as a plant itself, I know there's so much focus on CBD, but hemp has a variety of uses beyond just CBD. Hemp plastics are something that we're looking at to actually incorporate into our packaging. I think consumers are looking for that. So for those that are actually considering entering this space, that definitely has to be a checkbox that you're checking and thinking about sustainability and listening to your consumers.
Great. Kimberly?
So the way that I think about it is exactly the same. However, I also want to encourage my ecosystem to follow those same practices. And so it's looking at the vendors that we work with and making sure that they are practicing both sustainable and inclusive practices and making the choice of who we're giving our money to as an organization. And then it's also around responsible sourcing and making sure that the ingredients that we're using beyond the hemp or the CBD is sustainably planted, it's not using child or slave labor, and is regenerative and natural to that environment. And so one of the big things I focus on is picking ingredients that are native to the state of California, because that's where we are producing, and making sure that we can control our supply chain.
Yeah, as similar numbers to Jay, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of little glass bottles, plastic tops, all of that is going out there to the consumer through CB Distillery and Boda. We've partnered with a group that actually we take the amount of waste that we'll produce, and they take that much out of the ocean, specifically plastic. So it's been an important initiative and great for our culture at our company.
Sustainability is one of the words that people will throw around all the time. We're great marketers, we're great branders, we're trying to connect with people. But who are the third parties that are keeping you, the brand, you, the founders, you, the core mission, accountable? So right now we're under pending B Corp status. It takes a year to get fully certified, and that is a social and environmental accountability quotient. They go through protocols. They come into your offices. They go to your third-party batching facilities. They give you a score. You are held accountable to a number. That number is then shown to you. So what are you doing? What other third-party groups like Detox Project, like I mentioned, are you testing for 360 insecticides, pesticides in your product, in the final formulation? So again, what are you doing there? Packaging, what are you doing? Is it in glass or is it in plastic? Plastic is single-use plastic, we know, and we talk about a micro trend that's going to be a massive trend. Plastics and single-use plastics for, yes, oceans, but yes, just the quality of our lives and synthetic ingredients. We know that these molecules particularly can be transmitted back into the plastic. So what we do at Prima is we use only glass, and we're moving all to 100% sustainable and recycled glass content. 98% of our packaging is recycled or recyclable. And we're going through one step further is we're going to offset both the impact of the company as well as the packaging as well as the sourcing of the raws to be a climate neutral organization. So wiping all the carbon offsets into one specific group called climate neutral. So these are things that we need to do. Again, elevating the standard of the industry because we're creating the industry. We are the leaders that are really driving the attention to this industry. So let's lift up and let's do what other CPG is doing, but let's create a brand new higher standard and self-regulate accordingly.
Dr. K.
I hear statistics about the crop this year, and millions and millions of pounds of hemp, but a lot of fiber left, and actually a lot of plant material left over. So I think there's a tremendous opportunity to actually recognize hemp as a tremendous fiber and use that throughout the supply chain. I think that's a fantastic thing for the industry to do. We've been studying other tube ingredients, raw materials, sugars can be used in tube materials, and so I think it's it's definitely appropriate for brands, particularly in this space, because we are so aware and passionate about the plant material, to be aware of these factors.
Hemp bioplastics. That's next on my checklist. Hemp bioplastics. This next question actually is probably my favorite question, because I'm a founder. I'm an entrepreneur, and there was a day when I didn't know anything. And if I knew what I knew now when I started, I could have skipped 20 different steps. So I'm going to ask everybody to give advice. Not only advice that you can give them if you're interested in getting in this cannabis space, but what great advice has someone given you? And again, I'd say let's start there, at the end with Jay.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. This is a question that I often think about, because to your point, Michael, there's been a lot of mistakes that I probably could have avoided. I think if we look at the advice that's been given to entrepreneurs or potential founders, it's somewhat conflicting, right? You've got advice where a lot of people are telling you to innovate something completely new and find a unique place for yourself in the market. And then you also have this conflicting advice that says move as quickly as possible. And then that always kind of confused me, because how in the world can you move as quickly as possible but at the same time be thought out and strategic? And what I've kind of come down to, kind of distilling that to, is actually just believing in what you're doing and being honest with yourself. When you actually find something that you truly do believe in, and you're not pursuing it for the money or the potential success, but simply just because you believe that you've got something that no one else has, or you can actually provide unique value, that belief will carry you through the hard times, which I can guarantee there will be. The belief will carry you through the sales pitch when you're convincing someone to carry your product. And that belief will carry through the speed and the urgency to actually get to the market, because you can't stand to wait. So I think for any founder that's considering starting a business or taking that leap, when you have that actual belief and you can be honest with yourself about what you're doing, you're going to be set up for success. And that belief is going to force you not to have a plan B. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs have that kind of built-in safety net, which forces them to actually make that leap and fully commit to it. And so just be honest with yourself. There's an opportunity for everyone here, and I was in your shoes. Everyone up at this panel isn't doing anything special other than just kind of taking a belief and taking that leap. And so I think there's a lot of things that can be done, and just finding that opportunity and going after it is where I'd start.
I think we overlook culture so much, and I think at the end of the day, capitalism or starting a business is all about relationships with people, whether they're your consumers or your coworkers. And so deciding how you want to show up in the world, showing how you want who you want to work with, who you want your buyers to be, who you want to be in your general ecosystem, I think has been the most transformational for me. I think that recently I thought that money was perhaps more important than some values. Turns out values are more important than money. And so that is a lesson that was incredibly important to me, and staying true to your values and making sure that people around you share those values is incredibly important.
Yeah, my one piece of advice is try and keep those horse blinders on. There's a lot of squirrel chases. When we were first starting CB Distillery, there was a lot of different projects that we can work on. We could have done white label, private label. We can do bulk ingredients. Everybody was kind of coming in saying, we want CBD, just do deals with us. And they were really lucrative deals. And we did a pretty good job, but not a great job. I wish it would have been more disciplined of putting on those blinders and concentrating on your brand and moving it forward each and every day. Waking up and saying, how am I going to move this forward? Rather than how am I going to make money? So that was really important to us as we grew the company.
Yeah, I think we're all hitting a common theme around people and purpose and commitment to quality, but it's really your empathy and your truth. What are you living? What do you care about? What's your point of view? And can you attract those people into that, your brand and your vision? People are drawn to that sense of urgency and that level of quality and commitment of a higher purpose that we all share. And for me, it is very much it's a people conversation. It is a conversation that when, at the end of the day, there's talent all over the place, but are the talent values aligned? Not value aligned, values aligned. And that alignment, because, yeah, year 1, 2, 3, they're bubbles and rainbows. Let's talk year 6, 7, and 8. That is hard. Scaling a business is hard. And you're only going to do it with the people that are deeply connected to you and that care and are aligned with your vision and mutual common purpose.
And I'm going to say, find yourself a great mentor. I was very fortunate early on to have a patient who had been extremely successful with her own brand. And she took to my story and my little project and was instrumental in terms of giving me advice and guiding and creating connections. So, people who have been successful are often very willing to share their story and help others. So if you can tap into a network and get some help, you'll certainly speed yourself along. And one of the key pieces of advice I got from this woman was that I should really answer the question why for the consumer. Why does the consumer want this product? Why will they purchase it? Why will they be using it? And that really fundamentally brought me down to the reason why we have these products, the help that I'm offering people through our brand, and it's helped us create the consistent message in terms of our products and our topicals, and if you're aware of the different categories that we have. So if you can identify your why and your, I'll say in French, your raison d'être, and just follow that passionately and get great advice from a mentor along the way, you'll help yourself tremendously, and the mentor will enjoy seeing your success.
Was your mentor Simon Sinek, The Power of Why? It's a great book. You should read it.
No, but that is a good book.
I was once told, if you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. So I think it all goes back to surrounding yourself with great people that care. Only a few more minutes left. This is an exciting part for me because everyone here is on the hot seat, and I mean that literally. It is hot up here. But I would love to open it up to everyone out there. If you have questions, now's the time to ask. Sharpen the pencils, and let's pick the brains of these experts up here because they're truly experts.
Hi, thank you all for the insights. It's been great. Wanted to understand how technology is playing in your, growth phase, building your brand. Love to understand what you're doing on the tech front and if it's a piece of your business strategy.
Are we talking technology as far as digital technology or
Well,
innovations
in various
on
fashions.
ingredients?
No, it can be in various fashions. So you're talking about transparency. Are you doing anything with the technology to help with transparency? Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I'm currently looking at, because I also play in the cannabis space and there's an issue called VapeGate, is looking at how we can manage our supply chain and put transparency through either cryptocurrency or basically cryptocurrency to make sure that we always understand where that batch is in process, and so that the consumer can quickly hold up the package and know specifically the test results, but also the authenticity of the product. So this is an aside from what we're generally talking about, but like we had a big issue with illegal vape pens in the state of California. So it's also around making sure that, and I'm sure it's going to happen to CBD as well, making sure that it is an authentic product that's true to your brand, in addition to providing the test results. And so there are a lot of crypto solutions out there that I'm currently exploring.
I'm going to say something really basic. Find yourself a great credit card processor if you're in that space. The CBD industry has been a challenge in terms of processing. It's changing quickly, but there were days where we would get news that we were down to only being able to accept Visa as a credit card payment. So it's just one aspect. Make sure you understand your technology. Make sure you understand some of the roadblocks that are out there. They're changing, and lots of things change quickly in this landscape, but make sure you have a good understanding of what you're getting into, and so you're ahead of the potential speed bumps or roadblocks.
Yeah, I think on the technology side, molecular innovation on getting down to the molecule level, 480 compounds or molecules inside the hemp plant. What are you doing with them? How are you preserving them? How are you packaging them? How are you ensuring through PK studies and other clinicals that they're getting to the areas of the body that you need that get them to? Are they being processed in the liver and the gut and your GI tract and your digestive tract? What are you doing with the molecule? I think the molecule innovation side of this industry, a la the other major and minors and other active plant compounds, is going to be fascinating to watch, and I think that's where you're going to see some strides of brands taking some leaps and bounds forward.
Yeah, I'll go quick. Just more on the operational side, technology and supply chain. I think my favorite piece of technology that we have it's called the Tive tracker, Tive. And so when you go to your farm, you can actually put these trackers in the bag and you can track them all the way to your extraction facility. So you know nobody's switching out, which happens and which has happened and something you need to watch out for. And you can tell if they're exposed to sunlight, anything, moisture, make sure it's not getting moldy, and you have that throughout the process.
Sure, I can just add to that. I think if we look at the way that CBD is consumed today, and this may sound contradictory as someone that's selling CBD products, but the intake and the actual bioavailability is relatively low, and it's somewhat crude. I think the delivery methods are going to improve dramatically. One of the technologies that we're working on is liposomal delivery, which is actually packaging CBD into a cellular membrane so it can be more readily absorbed by the body. As Dr. Kerklaan had pointed out, and I believe the board or the panel pointed out, right now there's this huge opportunity to improve what we're doing with CBD. And so what we've done is taken a pharmaceutical technology or former pharmaceutical technology and applied it to a natural product. I think that's really where the technology is going. There's great systems to automate. There's fantastic credit card processors. All of that is happening as the industry is maturing. But let's actually look at how we're consuming those products and the actual effects on the body and getting that data.
Let's do one more question, and I'm confident in saying I've got to know each person up here. They're great people, but they are the leaders in this space. They're going to be around today. So if you have additional questions, hunt them down, and I'm sure they'll answer.
Yeah, looking at brands right now, what is working today really well for brands, but as we look into the future, as regulation evolves and the customer education evolves, just won't be acceptable for brands?
Let's run down the line. 15 seconds per person.
I don't think I quite heard the question. What is working for brands at the moment? Is that right?
What's working right now really well for brands, but won't and will not be acceptable in the future as regulation and customer education evolves?
Yeah, I think down to quality of ingredients is very important. The consumer is becoming very aware of quality ingredients. So that's certainly a factor. And competition, we mentioned there are 2,000 brands out there, but there's certainly competition coming from large consumer goods companies as well. So make sure you answer that why and look to be nimble and establish yourself, work hard as quickly as possible.
Human connection and connecting with your consumer on a one-on-one basis. As we scale, that's harder and harder to do over time, but having conversations, giving them the deep education, not making ridiculous claims. It's not snake oil. It's not a panacea. Be responsible with claims and claims management, because that's going to preserve the integrity of this industry, and we're all super attentive to that. One other thing I want to say is we're going to do the work, and the industry leaders are going to do the work to come together and form coalitions, because the regulators aren't doing it, because we have to come together and be the ones who, again, are the responsible parties and lift the standards there.
That was perfect. I apologize. We're out of time. But at the end of the day, hold the brands accountable. Hold us accountable, and that's how we'll drive this industry forward. Thank you all. You guys were fantastic. Thanks for joining us. On to the next.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, FounderMade.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Mike.